Hey everyone, welcome to the Medusa Yarn and Fiber podcast. My name is Nikki and I'm your host. Check out the description box below for links to where you can find me on the internet as well as social media. If you're a new viewer, thank you very much for tuning in, and please be sure to hit the subscribe button and the like button and all the other bells and whistles that help my presence here on YouTube. If you're a returning viewer, thank you very much for coming back. I know there's myriad podcasts out there to watch, so your precious time is much appreciated. So today I am filming the second in my FlossTube series. I also am a knitter and have a series of knitting podcasts. So if you are also interested in knitting, dyeing yarn, spinning, hand spun yarn, anything like that, be sure to check out my other videos. But today is all about cross stitch. So I'm here to show you all of my works in progress. No finished objects quite yet, hopefully soon. So I'm going to get right to it, simply because time is precious, and it's not often that I find myself at home by myself, but I had to call in sick this morning from work because I got my vaccination on Saturday and today's Monday. Saturday morning I got my second vaccination, and by about 6 o'clock at night I could hardly move. I was so sick. And then all day yesterday, I could hardly get out of bed. I had aches and pains like I'd never had before, lightheaded, some of the worst headaches I've ever had. And then this morning, it was the same thing. And then so I had to call in sick. And then around noon, they all went away, just like that. And I felt great. So I thought, well, not very often I'm home alone, so I'm going to quickly do a podcast. And I also have to apologize for any barking from the dogs next door. I'm sitting in our dining room today because my craft room is a bit of a disaster. And so the dogs next door are barking. My lighting is terrible, so bear with me. So hopefully the lighting is well enough in here that you can see the projects. So the first one I'm going to show you is the 2021 Stitch Along by Modern Folk Embroidery called the Fruits of Plenty. I think it's called the Fruits of Plenty. I think on his website in one spot it says the Fruit of Plenty. Another spot it says Fruits of Plenty. I think fruits sounds better, so that's what I'm going with. So I'm way far behind. I just finished January's block. And so I need to catch up with February and March. But I'm not overly worried about finishing it on time. But there we have it. Isn't that just the cutest little thing? Isn't it just so pretty? And it's just a 2-color project, 2-tone blues that I'm doing, the called for colors, in DMC cotton floss. Now the linen is 28 count cashel linen in white, and I'm doing this 1/1. So it's pretty fine stitching, but I'm very, very pleased with how it's turning out. I'm pleased with my stitching on this. I think it's turning out to be quite even and quite nice, which I'm discovering as I've just recently gotten back into cross stitch. I'm realizing that, and please tell me if this is normal because it's been so long since I cross-stitched, that when I'm just doing one strand, 1/1, my cross-stitching is much nicer looking than when I'm using 2 strands. And I don't know if that's because of the twisting that happens if you're not careful. So it could just be common that if you're only using one strand of floss, that it just tends to look better, like more even. So there we go. A bird sitting on a plate of presumably fruit. I really like Modern Folk Embroidery, and the day I discovered him, Jacob de Graaf, is the day I bought this. I just really like his designs. So very, very pretty. I'm very happy with it so far. So that's my first work in progress. Now, my second one that I'm going to show you is another Modern Folk Embroidery design. Again, I bought it the same day. And it is let me go back and find it. I have to keep track of everything on the Cross Stitch Plus app because I don't remember anything. It's the Valkommen, Valkommen. Sorry, I'm a Latin teacher and we don't pronounce the V's. And I find that when I try to pronounce V's in other languages, I'll pronounce it with it should be in Latin, and I don't think that's right. So it's Valkommen, not Walkommen, as I would say it in Latin. And I just really, really love this one. It's going to be a gift for my mom. And I'm sorry my phone is blowing up here. It's 32 count Belfast linen in the natural color, and it's 2/2. And I think it's 815 or 814 red DMC cotton floss. I can't remember which number it is, but it's just a red cotton floss DMC. And I've made a lot of progress. I think when I first showed it to you guys, I had just started the border at the top, and it's gotten a lot of love from me. This one and the other Modern Folk Embroidery have gotten the most love from me for the last few months. This one I probably did most of I know that I was done up to the end of Valkommen up until a couple days ago, and all the decorative stuff here was all done mostly when I was sick from COVID, because I could sleep. I couldn't really get out of bed. Not COVID, sorry, the vaccination. I'm sorry, the dogs are barking. But I could hardly get out of bed, and I slept a lot. But when I wasn't sleeping, I just wanted to stitch, and so yesterday I got a lot of stitching done. I just love it, so I can't wait to get it done. I'm going to send it to my mom. She's Swedish, and I just feel very nostalgic because even though I grew up in Canada and my father wasn't Swedish, he's French, I still grew up with a lot of old-fashioned, old-world Swedish traditions. You know, eating the lutefisk, doing a lot of stitching and knitting and crocheting and sewing and stuff like that. So I feel very nostalgic about my old-fashioned Swedish heritage. And maybe I talked about this last time, but whenever I speak with my friends or family in Sweden, they always kind of laugh at how when I'll talk about the Swedish traditions, they're like, nobody does that anymore. That's for old people. But because my grandparents preserved the traditions that they brought over in the 1920s, that's just what I grew up with. Anyway, I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself See, this is what happens. If I'm not careful and I wait too long to do an episode, I forget what I've told you guys, and then I just keep repeating myself. So please indulge me if I've already told you guys all this. I think that I will have this done in days, although now that I'm feeling better, I can't lay in bed stitching all day. I do have children that I can't continue to neglect. And so I am going to try to get this off to my mom in the mail within about a week. I shouldn't say that because I do want to get it framed. I haven't decided yet if something like this, because it hasn't been an overly strenuous kind of stitch, like 2/2, one color, pretty straightforward, very quick small stitch. I'm not sure if I'm going to get it framed or just frame it myself and then send it to her. We'll see. But it's a surprise because I'm pretty sure she isn't going to be watching any of my FlossTube episodes. So yeah, I've enjoyed that one, and I'm going to have lots of fabric left over to do other small stitches or small projects with it. It's just really nice to have that instant gratification and not wait like a year to have something done. All right, the next one I'm going to show you is my Hands Across the Sea sampler. The Marion Horsburgh, or Horsburgh, however you want to pronounce it. Now, she sat untouched for quite a long time since my last podcast, but I did pull it together and get the border done, as you can see. And then I just got a little bit of one of the trees started. And I'll be sure to post in pictures of the final product later on. Sorry, my light got knocked. Anyway, so just this adorable little sampler that I just love so much. My first sampler ever. Always kind of scratching my head thinking I would never do one, but really, really, really liking it. Well, I shouldn't say that. I only discovered them recently. But when I first discovered them, I was like, not my style. But then the more I watched Nicola Parkman and her FlossTube, the more charmed I became. So I finished that, and I have to say, I'm not taking it off the frame. I bought a couple of these cheap frames from Hobby Lobby or Joann's or whatever. I can't remember. And I really am unhappy with how fiddly they are and how flimsy they are and how they don't hold the tension. And I'm really tempted to place an order for one of those frames. Are they called Optimum frames? What are they called? It's either Quantum or Millennium. I think it's the Millennium that is the one I want. I'd have to double check. But anyways, they're not, they're pricey, but you can get it for under $100 is my understanding. But it's the weight. So I think I need to just order one and forget about it and then be happily surprised when it comes. So yeah, the Millennium frames, because I like to use a frame. I do use hoops, but I really don't like having to iron my cross stitch so much, because I don't like to leave it and make it like I don't like to have the stitched part in the frame, and it's pretty hard to avoid. I don't know why, and I can't freehand stitch. I just, it's not something I can do, or stitch in hand or whatever they call it. So yeah, I really would like to get a good quality frame rather than these cheap ones that are just so rickety, and then taking them out, changing them out, and it's just a pain in the butt. Anyways, love it. It's so cute. I can't wait to start filling it in. Now the other one I have is, and the Marion Horsburgh is on 18 count Aida, 2/1, I think. Let me see. Now that's my dog barking up a storm. If it's not the neighbor's dog, it's my dog. Yeah, it's 18 count, 2/1. I like that coverage. I like all the coverages so far. The only coverage I'm unhappy with for my choice is my Heaven and Earth Design all over coverage, which I'm about to show you now. I haven't gotten nearly as much work done on this one as I had hoped. My plan was to do 100 stitches a day. That's not happening. And that's because I can't, this is not a portable project the way the two Modern Folk Embroidery ones are. They're very portable for me because they're in hoops. This one is on my larger cheap stand, and I still haven't washed the chocolate out. I'm scared to wash it out because I'm scared before I wash it upon completion, because I'm scared all of the grid lines will come out in this area and maybe spread. I don't know. I'm just nervous about washing it. So it's just going to have to wait or get cut off. It's at the very edge, so I'm not too concerned about it. But I'm doing this Heaven and Earth design. It's the mini moonlighting. Again, I'll post a picture. And I really, really like working on it, but it's a stationary project. I can't take it with me. it's just too fiddly, because when you're doing an all over design, you just have to really concentrate. And this is 25 count Lugana that I bought from Nerdy by Design on Etsy, and it's 1/1. And I like it, except this dark blue area. I feel like I can see the white underneath. So as I get into the other lighter colors, the more I like it. But I don't think I will choose a 25 count Lugana 1/1 ever again. If I choose a 25 count linen or anything like that ever again, I'll have to change the thread, because I found 2/1 too fluffy and 1/1 not quite right, at least for dark colors. I guess it just depends on the color of floss versus the color of the fabric. But anyway, not a whole lot of progress done. I think the last time I showed you, I just had this top corner done. So I'm getting there, and I'm working diagonally this way. And it's just not happening for 100 stitches a day. It's just not happening. It's just too difficult. And especially at the end of the day, once the kids are in bed and my husband and I settle in to watch TV, I want to hang out with him. And it's much easier for me to take one of these smaller designs that aren't all over coverage and do it on the couch. Whereas this stays set up in my craft room with all the lighting and everything on it. And I'm doing the parking method. So it's just too much to do on the couch. I'd get tangled up probably in all the threads. I'm really enjoying working on all 4 of them. It's something I've just missed so much over the last 25 years. One thing I am noticing too is that I feel kind of guilty that I haven't been knitting as much. I've been focused so much on my cross stitch, and I've also I've started quilting as well, because I have a little bit of a better sewing machine now than what I used to have. And I'll show you the quilting, but I'm only going to show quilts when they're finished. I'm not going to do quilting on works in progress, because they take so long and they're kind of boring to watch, because I don't know. But anyway, I've started quilting as well, and I think the reason why is because knitting to me is a very selfish endeavor. I knit for myself, and that's about it. I will knit the odd shawl for somebody else or hat, but they have to be pretty knit worthy for me to do that. And even then I'm not so sure, because I've knitted several things for my mom, who's my mom. Of course she's knit worthy, and she's given them back to me. So when I knit for my kids, for example, I kind of get mad because I'll see a sweater that I've knit for them balled up on the floor, or I'm nervous that the dog will chew on it, that kind of thing. And so when I think about heirlooms that I want my children to have, cross stitching, which can hang on a wall and not get moth eaten from hanging out in a closet for a year, or not get chewed up by the dog or peed on by the cat. Not that my sweet Figaro would ever pee in the house, but you know what I mean. Or just get something spilled on it or anything like that. A cotton quilt you can throw in the washing machine and dryer. Something that's hanging on the wall isn't going to get ruined in the same way, or possibly ruined in the same way. Or it could be like me. I've knitted dozens of shawls for myself that I haven't worn in years because they sit in a drawer and I forget about them. And so I kind of want to I'll never stop knitting. Knitting is my therapy. Well, all of this is my therapy. But cross-stitching, I find when I think about the finished object, I'm a little bit more excited about it, because it's for somebody else for the most part. I mean, they're for me, but only because my kids still live with me, and then eventually it'll be for them. Whereas my sweaters that I knit for myself, or my shawls that I knit for myself, my son definitely won't have any interest in them. And my daughter might, for nostalgic reasons, but to me it just won't be the same as walking into someone's home and when she's older and she can say, oh, my mother made these 40 years ago, or my grandmother made, you know, it's just to me going to have a longer return for my time. Even though, you know, I'm not going to stop knitting, and knitting is for me, I feel like these other crafts like quilts can be family heirlooms. Cross stitching could be family heirlooms in a much more generic way or easier way than a knitted garment. I hope that makes sense. And they're just, I get nervous that my husband never does laundry. I have to do all the laundry, including his. But I get nervous. Like, what if one day he just decides he's going to do some laundry, like if I'm away, and then one of my knitted sweaters accidentally gets in there? You know, it's kind of a stressful thing, whereas no one's going to take cross stitch off the wall and rewash it. I think I'm preaching to the choir here. Anyways, I am going to keep this relatively short because I want to make a knitting podcast now. It's been way too long since I've done a knitting podcast. So if you want to see all about my knits, watch the next video that I'll be posting. So thank you very much for taking the time to watch my rambling and fiddling around here in my messy house. And please hit the subscribe button, the like button, and comment, especially if you have any questions for me. So enjoy this glorious spring that we're having, at least we're having here in Knoxville in East Tennessee. Mwah! Take care.